have now come upon the first of the Tigerstar and Sasha mangas, Into the Woods, no relation to the musical. Like the 3 Gray Stripe comics, these were made as 3 pieces of the same story, released months apart from each other. It's well, I don't see many people talking about them in general, unless it's to make a joke about the art. Still, we know so little about Sasha's relationship with Tigerstar, and honestly, even their kits, Mothwing and Hawkfrost, weren't given much backstory or exploration in the arc they featured in. So this could be an interesting opportunity to dig into these important characters. We'll see what they did with it. Oh, and before we get in too far, here's the page I'm redrawing for this episode. Into the Woods was released on September 2nd of 2008, 3 months after Cats, the Clans, and the Rise of Scourge, 2 to 3 months before Long Shadows, and the same day as Eclipse. Now, putting aside the main series for a moment, 3 months since the last manga is an incredibly short time frame for a fully illustrated comic book, which explains part of why this entry is, yet again, illustrated by a complete newcomer to the series, Don Hudson, even though it is still written by Dan Jolie. Let me clear up that he is a talented illustrator and is still doing art today, colored and not, and often as part of comics. He has his own blog if you would like to look up what he's doing these days, but a key factor you'll find easily enough is that he mainly just draws people or humanoids and more modern environments like buildings, ships, and planes. Drawing an entire 3-part manga set in the wild with only cats as the main characters would seem like an odd assignment to give this particular artist then, and you would be correct to think so. There is a fair amount of art in here with inaccurate proportions or odd expressions, and the cats in general aren't especially diverse or interesting to look at, with several of them being difficult to tell apart. Many screenshots from this and future Tigerstar and Sasha entries have circulated the internet as memes or examples of comedy, which I won't be engaging in today, but which I also entirely understand the cause of. The art in this manga series is not especially good, primarily because the artist was out of his depth. I can't say why he was chosen to illustrate for Warriors, but it's what we have, and it's what we'll be discussing for the day. As with the other mangas, this one starts with a note from one of the Erins, this time explaining their fascination with and asking questions about Sasha and her relationship with Tigerstar and their kits. Noting in particular that Sasha has raised her kits with good stories of Tigerstar and hinting that there must be a reason. We'll see if this book can tell us what that was. Moving on though, Into the Wild has a speaking cast of 14 cats, where 11 of those are named characters, and unsurprisingly, given that very small number, the top 5 cats get 94% of the lines. That said, I think it's time we get into the meat of this book. What actually happened between Tigerstar and Sasha? We begin with Sasha frantically running after her two-leg, the one that remains alive anyway, as he is driven away to live in a home that doesn't allow pets. Sasha is now alone, with her collar, no housefolk, and no idea of what to do. Apparently, before, Sasha had a happy life with her old housefolk, Ken and Jean, and each night they would let her out to explore. But when Jean died, Ken got sick with grief and eventually had to move out of the house, and a new two-leg arrives at her house to try and take care of her. But Sasha has already escaped through an open window in an attempt to chase after her housefolk, and she can't get back inside. Without Ken, she doesn't really want to. Sasha talks to Schnucky, her friend who lives nearby with other housefolk, and Schnucky immediately offers Sasha a place with her housefolk. But Sasha really only wants her own housefolk back, and ventures into the forest instead, where she rather smoothly finds a meal and a place to shelter herself. She can hunt, by the way, easily. This is no Millie moment. While hunting the next morning, she runs into a tabby stalking the same mouse, who backs down when she apologizes and introduces himself as Pine. The narration tells us he's not sympathetic to the story she tells off-screen of being abandoned by her two legs, but we don't see or hear anything that would suggest that, except that Pine's first reaction is that she needs to take off her collar to make sure cats know she's starting a new life. Pine pulls it off her and Sasha doesn't stop him, but she says a part of her wishes she had. Pine gives her some more exposition about what a rogue is, how they're different from the clans, and how neither group really likes kitty pets, and then he leaves. What a good, useful character. Sasha keeps the collar around as a reminder of Ken, but stays in the woods. In fact, she chooses to follow the exposition she got from Pine and see what those clan things are, searching and sneaking for the night before she comes across and spies on a patrol with 3 cats known as Rowan Paw, Tigerstar, and Jagged Tooth. Sasha immediately thinks that Tigerstar is handsome. He has a very cool, dramatic name. Oh, she cannot take her eyes off him. Instantly, he's so much better than the other 2 cats there. Sasha manages to break out of her shallow romance glasses for a moment to contemplate that the clans might have to live in the wild, but at least they have each other, which might be nice. Quickly, though, she shakes this thought away and says that if she can't have Ken and Jean, she can't have anyone, a sentiment she apparently repeats to herself over and over during the next day. But then, she sees Tigerstar again, and catches a frog in front of him that his patrol was failing to catch. She isn't especially confident in herself, but the look on that handsome cat's face sure is priceless. Okay, I want to cover this later, but here's the thing. Warriors has always had a problem with this, but just saying, wow, this cat is beautiful and or handsome over and over again does not convince me that they have a connection. Please. Anyway, Tigerstar calls off his immediately aggressive warriors because Sasha isn't a threat, even though she just took prey from in front of them. Yep, sounds just like Tigerstar. Sasha teases the warriors gently, and Tigerstar sends them home to talk to Sasha alone, warning her to not do that again or he would let his warriors attack. Sasha is immediately convinced that he doesn't mean any of that and actually cares about her. Sure. Anyway, they introduce themselves to each other, and Tigerstar gives her some exposition about clan life, along with a get-out-of-jail-free card to avoid his patrols in the future. Tigerstar is now all Sasha can think about, with his muscular body and his confident voice. While trying to catch a rabbit, she runs into Tigerstar again. He insults her sloppy technique, and she suggests he train her to be better. Instead of answering, he asks where she lives, and remembering for half a second that Pine said clan cats didn't like kitty pets, she answers with her new makeshift den in the woods. As much as she believes this is a lie, this is an accurate answer because she cannot get back into her house and has made no attempt to even return to the two-leg place since she lost it. Oh, and then we have a time skip page where Tigerstar and Sasha apparently meet up for many nights in a row. Sasha coming away telling us that she thinks Tigerstar is polite, strong, and makes her feel safe. He also gives her prey when she fails to hunt on a day, and tells her about ShadowClan and clan life and StarClan. None of this is in dialogue, we're just told that he told her in that time together. They're attacked by a fox one day. Tigerstar fights it off single pod, and Sasha is grateful despite never being injured or remotely in mortal danger. Tigerstar continues to ignore her questions and just go on talking about topics of his choice. He insults her for being a kitty pet when he finds her collar, tells her what she can be and that she'll never last on her own. All signs of a great, healthy relationship. Sasha dreams of her old housefolk and decides she can't be ashamed of them. She goes out to hunt a bird, which she leaves for ShadowClan, and then a rabbit for herself, and then gets cornered by 2 foxes this time, and Tigerstar saves her once again. But this time, Sasha joins in fighting the foxes, and the 2 cats manage to beat the 2 foxes on their own. Sasha takes care of an exhausted Tigerstar, and he says she's not like any kitty pet he has ever met, and they start seeing each other again. Sasha shows Tigerstar the house she grew up in as a show of trust, and Tigerstar ignores her while she's talking and tells her that none of this should matter to her because she's a forest cat now. They also say hi to Schnucky, who is very scared of Tigerstar. Tigerstar is rude to her, so I can't blame her. Schnucky tries to warn Sasha about how dangerous Tigerstar might be as a strong wildcat, and Tigerstar cuts her off to order Sasha to come back with him. Sasha decides to never come back to the two-leg place, just as Tigerstar wants. Tigerstar brings Sasha to ShadowClan's camp, introduces her to the places and cats there, and invites her on a hunting patrol. Russet Fur is very nice and welcoming to her, by the way, while explaining Tigerstar to be a good and strong leader for ShadowClan, although he is overworked by stress from trying to put their broken clan back together. The rest of ShadowClan in general is at least actually nice to her, complimenting her on her skilled catches and not putting much of a fight about her being there. Sasha stays in camp that night and goes on patrol again the next day. Sasha also gets to witness Tigerstar confront and chase off some ThunderClan warriors, and she is impressed by how much control he has, while still being absolutely confident that he wouldn't hurt them. She does pause to ask why the ThunderClan cats called Tigerstar a traitor, but Tigerstar explains that he was driven out by the jealous and weak leadership of the clan, and that ThunderClan took those leaders' sides. Tigerstar then asks Sasha if she would join ShadowClan. She asks for time, and he gives her 1 day. In that time, Sasha comes across Pine again, who is sick and weak in the cold. Seeing that this is the life of a rogue immediately convinces Sasha to accept Tigerstar's offer. However, as she is coming back, she hears Tigerstar discussing his plan to unite with BloodClan and take over all the clans, including his, plan to send dogs to the ThunderClan camp and kill Firestar. Hold there for a second. If Firestar is leader right now, as they have said in 2 scenes of this book, the dog attack, the one that killed Bluestar, definitely needs to have already happened. But I guess who cares about consistency or timelines, right? Oh, that'll probably be the worst mistake we ever get in the series anyway. Anyway, Sasha, realizing how evil Tigerstar's plan is, runs away to her den. Tigerstar comes to ask if she wants to join ShadowClan after their agreed-upon day, and at that point, the book cuts off. This is not really a cliffhanger, as we know from her fear and narration after running that Sasha absolutely won't join ShadowClan, but I guess we don't know how much Tigerstar has guessed Sasha knows and how much he will do to her, so fine. Drama, suspense. Now to discuss some things. First of all, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. But honestly, what does this book think love is? What is romance? The Aaron in the opening note even explicitly said that this story was an interesting avenue to explore because it might explain what Sasha and Tigerstar saw in each other and what their relationship was like. This book, entirely about the happiest period of their relationship, shows us none of this. On Sasha's side, we have a cat who only likes Tigerstar because he's very handsome and has a cool voice, and on Tigerstar's side, I literally cannot tell you what Tigerstar liked about her. Are we sure this is Tigerstar? Why did he not throw out the kitty pet as soon as she stepped on his territory? Why did he not allow his cats to fight her when she stole his prey? Why did he want this random outsider to get his special attention and join his clan? Why did he care? She's not talented by clan standards, he's not using her for her skills, he just treats her favorably for absolutely no reason we are given. I know I'm a hard sell on relationships to begin with, but this is ridiculous. We don't know why either of them like each other or treat each other in the ways that they do at the start, and the entire period where they are meant to be bonding is narrated over with flash forwards and exposition. Flash forwards and exposition that cannot be enhanced with rich expressions or telling poses because of the artist's limitations. This is especially frustrating because Sasha having something to like about Tigerstar and Tigerstar having some reason to treat Sasha differently are key to us believing the manipulations that are taking place in this relationship. The ones that would lead Sasha to believe Tigerstar really is a great cat, and for the shock and dismay to hit when Sasha eventually finds out Tigerstar's true history and intentions. People in abusive relationships do often react like Sasha, covering for warning signs they see in their partner and ignoring their friends' poor opinions of them, and on the other side trying to separate Sasha from her home and friends, getting her indebted to him through saving her life, and telling her just enough secrets for her to trust him without looking into him further, are all things that stick out as hallmarks of the abuser's side of a toxic relationship. But all of this feels fake and forced even with that because there is no honeymoon period. There is nothing either of these cats see in each other that would explain why they got together at all. Tigerstar is never nice to her, not in the way that Ken or Jean or Schnucky were, or even in the way that ShadowClan are. There is never anything that tells us why Sasha wants to stay with Tigerstar, or even in the woods, considering her grief over her two legs leaving is handled so sloppily. A lot of this book can be summed up in one word: shallow. Sasha is clearly in a bad relationship, but we don't know how she got there or why Tigerstar wants her in the first place. She's going through a lot of intense experiences, but we don't get a sense of who she is or feel any of her pain along with her. Schnucky is said to be a friend, ShadowClan seems nice or mean as the plot demands it, and Pine is a rogue, but we never spend enough time with any of them for whoever they are to come across, or for us to see the point of their relationships with Sasha. And all of this is due to one main factor, a lesson in writing that this book fails to uphold. Show, don't tell. Every single emotional beat or relationship is told to us through narration directly, rather than letting us see any of them happen, and it ends up feeling like we're reading a wiki summary of Sasha's story rather than reading the story itself. I don't feel any connection to the cats or plot in this story because the book doesn't ever give me a chance to. Even the awful, manipulative, harmful relationship Sasha gets herself in can't engage me because I don't understand or feel for any of the characters or plot beats involved in it. Overall, this first entry is admittedly quite disappointing. On a strictly technical level, it's the worst manga so far, and probably one of the worst entries in the series so far. It's not anger-inducing or wildly inaccurate outside of the Firestar thing, and it doesn't completely butcher any of its characters. But what it does do is leave all of its characters as husks that do nothing but funnel the plot through them, and most of that plot is told through speedy expositional narrations anyway. I genuinely had a difficult time picking out which page to draw for this episode because of how few interesting moments there were, and the page I ended up picking was chosen mostly for its imagery rather than any fun story or character moments happening inside. That said, it's possible that it will improve in the later entries, and either way, next time we can take a break as we get to Long Shadows, one of the most famous books in this period of Warriors history, so I hope you will join me then when we can discuss it in the next episode of our trip through time.